Barcelona 3, Inter 3. What a game it was. For the neutrals, that was phenomenal. For Barca, being a fan of them, my God, was a kind of disappointing. And what a defensive horror show we had. Lots to go over in the game. What a performance it was by Lamine Yamal. But there are questions to be had, and we have a really, really difficult task ahead of us at the San Siro. So let's get into it. If we do get into the lineups for both teams, actually, for us, it was pretty much the same lineup as Madrid, exactly the same. Yamal did have a scare before the game during the warm up. They were saying he had a muscle problem and that he was injured. Luckily, that only lasted for a couple minutes. He did end up playing through, and he seemed pretty much all right. I guess, yeah, it was just an injury scare. But, you know, from the team, we already knew we wouldn't have Balde. He was trying to make it for this first leg, but unfortunately, he just couldn't. And as well for Inter, we thought Thuram was going to be injured and miss this game, but he ended up playing anyway. I forgot who else was injured. I don't remember exactly, but it were two injuries that the players they ended up playing through, and you can see that this Lewandowski and Balde both being injured is a really really big problem for us. And considering we had played 120 minutes, had a crazy final, intense end to end over there, and all the energy the team spent, how the players were saying, how their legs were killing them and how much they suffered and how tired they were. You know, it is pretty tough for them, all things considered. But despite that, there is a few things we need to go over, considering which we'll get into actually now, the player ratings and some of the goals that happened with this team. So I want to go over the goals real quick before I get into player ratings, and I'll just have the lineup up and some of the match stats as I go over how I felt about the match and how I felt about the team. It really did not start well for us. In the first minute already, 30 seconds in, Inter already attacking, putting some pressure on us, and Inigo makes a really big mistake. It was really unfortunate. Thuram gets a ball in, Inigo slips, basically does almost a split, can't get up to defend it, and Thuram scores a really good goal, a really good, flick, like a back heel, shot past Chesney. And that is something I'm going to get into with Chesney later. I think he was pretty poor, but, really not a good start for us. 30 seconds in, and we've already conceded. Considering Inter, obviously I didn't look too much into their form because despite that, this is Barcelona, and if a team is in bad form, it doesn't mean much against us because Inter had not scored in 3 games, and already 30 seconds in, they've already scored. And we did get a chance after that. Ferran misses a huge chance. I'm not going to fault him too much because there were a lot of defenders in the way, and there wasn't that much space. But we were really struggling at first, with Inter, that physicality they were having, and just the whole game, the aerial presence they had was making it really tough for us. We physically, obviously we had fatigue, but just the strength they had and everything, really really bad for us. And in the 21st minute, this was a thing the whole game that was annoying me, was set pieces, but especially corners. Two of the goals we conceded came from corners. Dumfries, first corner makes it 2-0. They get a header. Dumfries does like a scissor kick. And, another great goal as well. Two great goals from Inter, but, already conceding that much, like I was saying, that aerial presence was just not there. We were losing a lot of duels, as you can see here. Aerial duels. We only won 4 of them. Inter won 18. A lot of those were coming from us just spamming crosses, which I'm going to be honest, I don't know why we were doing that this whole game. It was not working. We were crossing to basically nobody. We don't have Lewandowski, and nobody's tall enough to get these crosses. Inter were just going to head them out easily every time. Each and every single time, just easy for them. Head it out, and then we have to replay. But it was a really poor start. But man, Lamine Yamal, I'm just going to give him his rating right now. Just 10 out of 10 game from him. On his 100th game, he dropped the masterclass. It's probably not the result he wanted, but it's not the worst thing ever considering, we did end up tying the game. But he ends up scoring a crazy, crazy golazo, man. I swear I thought I was watching Messi again. He dribbles past a couple of players, then just curves a shot in. Summer, who had a great game today. I'm a big fan of Summer. I've rated him for many years already. He's actually one of my favorite goalkeepers. I like him a lot. But he's just completely frozen as the ball hits off the post and in. what a goal. I mean, just a 17-year-old, the way he just was kind of carrying us today, but just in general, how he plays, it's just phenomenal. There's a picture, that you can find on BR Football on their Twitter, I think, or on Barca Times that has Yamal and behind him is a board that says world's best, kind of similar to Messi. I picture that said priceless, and it's just correct. I mean, what a performance, man. And then after that, a lot of people were kind of getting nervous and being like, "Oh, the game's over." And I personally was saying that, like I said in another video, if this was, any other game in any other season, before this one, I would have been like, yeah, man, it's over. We're already losing 2-0. But with this team, I was calm. I had no fear after the second goal. I was a little bit worried because I was like, okay, we're going to have to be dealing with this all night, the things that are not going right for us, especially defensively. But I was calm because I knew that with this team, they've come back from worse and they had the mentality to get back in the game. We always have goals in us. And I was right because after that, Barcelona looked more alive. We were pressuring them more, able to win the ball back more, creating more chances. We missed a lot of chances today. As much as we had a defensive disaster class, we missed a lot of chances. I feel like if Lewandowski was there or something, definitely, it could have been a different game for us. But Ferran also, gets our second goal. What a cross it was from Pedri. Pedri today, just running the midfield, doing everything he can, like he always does. But especially today, I knew he was going to be able to, dominate this inter midfield despite the physicality, they have all over the pitch. And what a cross it was. He gets a cross into Rafinha. Rafinha heads it into the way of Ferran. Easy goal for him. But, what a way to get back into the game for us. It was really, really good. Unfortunately, after that, as what was doing, Yamal was cooking the whole time. He was doing crazy dribbles, getting past one players, causing problems. Unfortunately, Koundé did go down, and you can see that this season is really, really affecting the players badly. As well as, like I said, that final that we had, he had to come off. He goes down in the 42nd minute, in singling, he has to come off. As soon as you see a player, pull down his sock and take off all, like, whatever tape and other, BS they have on their legs, they have to come off. He does have a hamstring injury, so it's pretty much, confirmed that he's not going to play his second leg, which is a really, really big hit for us. We have, the quality there for, someone to take his place, luckily, but, it is a big miss for us. And I was saying that, he's played so many games straight, not only this season, but just over the past couple of seasons, how much he plays, especially. I'm not even surprised it happened. It was going to happen, despite how physically good he is, how much he trains, how well he keeps his body in shape. It was going to happen, and unfortunately it didn't in the first half for us. Eric Garcia came on, and I think he did pretty well. He showed it against Madrid. He played very, very well there, right back, and, today, really, really good from him. And then a few minutes after that, not only for our team, but Lautaro ends up going down, and, he's kind of, distraught. You can see in tears a bit. Everyone's trying to comfort him, even the Barca players, because he had to come off. And Zaghi loses his head on a touchline. I don't know what he was saying, but Lautaro ends up staying on until the end of the half. But you can see he was clearly not right. He was limping and, really struggling to run. And the half did end there. Not much went on afterwards. So Lautaro also did come off at halftime. Then, after half, after we regroup, Araujo did come on for Gerard Martin. And I'll give Gerard Martin his rating right now. 4 out of 10. He was horrible, man. It was really, really bad. I mean, I know, we joke about him and we call him, I know Ish on TikTok calls him Jared Maldini, but I feel like despite sometimes he can be good defensively, he offers us nothing. He's nothing. It's just, it's hard to replace Balde, but especially, these games, he was just getting cooked that whole side. Dumfries, that first half was just, it was like he wasn't even there. They were targeting him, it was just really, really poor from his side, and that's kind of why the first goal, Inigo slipping obviously, but the first goal even kind of happened really bad. And Araujo did really well. I'll give him a 7 because I think the goal we conceded after, the third one that Inter scores in the 60th minute, the game was calmer at that point. We were having more control. It wasn't as erratic, giving away, needless set pieces or corners. And, we weren't creating many chances, but we were able to control it. But Inter gets the corner again, and it's like every time they're going to get a corner, it's going to be a goal. And Kubarsi did come out and said we need to work on set pieces. That is something that needs to happen. We might not have the height or the players for it, but we really cannot be conceding goals like that, especially at home. Like that's just unacceptable from the team to concede like that. Dumfries scores another header. He goes over, Aranjo almost marking him, but almost obviously not going to win the header against him. But, he also doesn't put much pressure on him. And Aranjo is in front of him, kind of marking somewhere else. So goes past him and goes past Chesney. And Chesney, man, yeah, not a great performance from him tonight. Really, really poor. But a few minutes after that, like I said, this was a game for the neutrals because a couple minutes after that, we get a corner too. Olmo plays in. Yamal at the edge of the box, dummies it, lets it go past him, and Rafinha launches a just bombazo. That's all I can describe it as. It was what a goal it was. Off the crossbar, off Summer, and in. It sounded like a gunshot how went off in the stadium. Really, really powerful strike, and we were, tied 3-3. Just what a goal that was. And Rafinha, today a goal and assist. I think he did really well, considering he had kind of a few games where he was not doing so great, after the international break. But really good stuff from him. Firmino did come on for Olmo. Olmo, I'm going to give a 6 because I really feel like he just... In the Madrid game, he didn't do much, and in this game, he was physically struggling. He was able to find spaces here and there. But I just don't think he really showed anything. And this is the games like we really need him, where we're really counting on him to do something. So I don't think he did much. After that, we were trying to create, but, a lot of times we were just crossing into a box. Like, it reminded me of Xavi. Under Xavi, we were just crossing open for at best. And we don't have the players for it. I don't know where we were crossing into. Every time we play a cross, Inter heads it out. We recover possession. Luckily, we're able to control it, but, nothing much. Luckily, the offside did save us. Inter thought they had scored Mkhitaryan, but it was offside. Aranjo also had a few good moments, where he really shows that recovery, where he's able to get back and, defend really well. Luckily, no mistakes from him, really, that I could note from the game, because in big games, he worries me with how error-prone he is. But no big mistakes from him. Yamal, had a nice piece of skill later on in the game where he did like a roulette and he did a nutmeg first and then a roulette, kept the ball, and that's what we were doing. Inter were doing really well at cutting off the passing lanes, making it difficult for us, to attack and kind of build up, how we wanted to. We were still able to find space, but when you don't have Lewandowski there or just anyone else that can kind of act as a decoy distraction, it's really hard for us. Not really much happened after that other than just controlling the game and trying to create stuff. Yamal had like a chip that I don't think it was on purpose, kind of accidental. He hits the ball weirdly and like chips over and hits the crossbar. Summer is completely frozen. And man, if that went in, what a goal that would have been. And something that was crazy too, like I saw that Christensen was warming up and he came on in the 83rd minute with Gavi for Kubarsi and Pedri. The fact that I saw Christensen, everyone was like, whoa, like, is he's alive? Like, he's going to come on? And I think he did pretty well. I'll give him a 7 just because, he didn't have much time to do much. But considering he hasn't played since, the Valencia game, at the start of the season, I was so happy to see him back. And I think, he did well to just kind of, play out the lead and, keep it, 3-3. Later on, Rafinha had a really good shot in the last minutes, and Summer did a really good save. It was really good performance by him, but really not much to say other than that. Just defensively really poor from Barcelona, but like I said, I trust this team. It's going to be really, really hard for us in San Siro. It'll be a difficult game considering how interplay, and in the sense we cannot concede first. That is the game you do not want to concede first, because if we concede first against Inter there, it's going to be monsters for us to to overcome that. But the team has a mentality. I always back them. I'll do some player ratings real quick for the rest of the players I missed. Inigo, I'll give a 7. I think he did well, but it wasn't necessarily the best game for him, and especially that error I think was really costly, especially to do that in the first minute. But after that, I think he had a good game, had some good passes here and there. Kubarsi, I'll give as well a 7. Actually, I'll give both. Yeah, what? I'll give a 7 just because he had some good tackles and some good defensive moments. There, Koundé was only able to play a half, so I'll give him a 6 because, just not able to really do too much. I didn't really see much from him anyway, but I'll give him a 6. Olmo, I gave earlier. I'll give Olmo a 5 just because I don't think he was really able to do much, and it really was a disappointing performance from him. De Jong, I think was trying, did well, covered a lot of distance, but I'll give him a 7 as well. Good for him. Pedri, I'll give a 9 because Pedri, he was running the midfield today. He created that second goal for us to get us back into the game, tied, equalized, and you know in general he just runs things. He was really really good today. Yamal 10 out of 10. Rafinha, I'll give a 9 out of 10 because those goals and assisting Ferran, really good from him today. Ferran, I'll give an 8 because he got the goal. Actually, I'll give it a 7.5 because he got the goal. But against these type of teams, I think it was, you could tell we were missing Lewandowski. Joe Martin, I give a 5. Chesney and Martin, I'll give it a 4. I think it was really really poor performances from them. Gavi, I think didn't really get much time, so I give it a 6 because he was trying, but not much time. You can't really do too much. Eric Garcia, filled in for Kunde. I think I did well. I'll give him a 7.5 out of 10 because I think he did fill well in that role. And Araujo, same thing, 7.5 out of 10 because other than that, they didn't have to do too much. Well, he did have to do a lot, and I think defensively he was good. Besides, that corner where I feel like he could have helped Olmo a bit more. But yeah, really tough game for us in the away leg. Against Valladolid, we need to really heavily rotate. I don't care if we lose that game. I think Flick needs to understand we really need to rotate. We can't risk any more injuries to crucial players. I know we're still fighting for La Liga, but we have to see if Madrid drops points. And we really need the players in tip-top shape against that game if we want to make the final. We can't have the players this fatigued and this tired, trying to go through that. And hopefully, against Valladolid, because they're really, really bad this season, they're last place. They're not good. They're not a good team. We should be beating them even if we rotate. Will be a good chance for some players to get some minutes and, impress. But that's all I have to say about the game. Really long video today, but there was a lot to talk about. So, as always, VISCA Barca, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Big task ahead of us, but remember, always have faith in the team. I'll see you guys next time.